section below. Ah, okay, now we can see it. Alright, now we are live, guys. So let us know in the comment section below if you can hear us. And today we are going to be talking with the best guy on this topic, Master Jakub. It's gonna be topic the Ghost of Tsushima, the game that everybody's talking now, playing all around the world. So guys, let us know in the comment section below if you are actually playing the game. And meanwhile, Master Jakub maybe can tell a few words about him, because if you are here first time on this channel, maybe you don't know Master Jakub. So Master Jakub, can you a little bit explain?
So, thank you very much. I am a Japanese culture lover. I'm practicing martial art more than 30 years. Now I am teaching Haporyu, Genjutsu style of Japanese fencing, and I like Tameshigiri, etc. And we did some nice video with Adam's Lords of the Blades. It's very enjoyable for me as well, and a lot of new experiences, and meeting with a lot of very interesting people. So I am also a member of Czech Nihonto Kenkyukai Society for Study of Japanese, and I did some exhibitions about it, wrote some books. So about
Henry is saying if you can speak a little bit louder, Master Jakub.
Yes.
Okay, Master Jakub can definitely do that. So this give you idea, guys, that Master Jakub is definitely knowledgeable about this topic, and the game is now all over the world, and it actually helped to boost the views about the Lords of the Blade series. Really incredible, you know. Some of the videos have 100,000 views, 200,000 views, so it's really awesome. And even yesterday we had great collaboration with the channel. How was the name? Un poco del Toho or something like that. It's really big Mexican channel. I'm gonna be updating after on my social media. And that video have also like another 1 million, so that's really incredible. So now we're gonna be talking, since there's a lot of you guys now in the chat, we're gonna be talking like about first impressions from the game, because Master Jakub already have seen it. He even had the interview about the game on the well-known Czech magazine Reflex, right? So Master Jakub, what was your first impression when you see for the first time the game? Did you enjoy it?
Of course, my point of view is not expert for computer games. I am a Bugeisha, or person which is practicing martial arts, so this is one point of view for me. And second one is historical, because I love Japanese history, Mongolian invasion as well. So for me it was interesting. How should this game be about historical accuracy, etc. And I suppose it's a very nice project.
Well, we can at least talk about, because I am at least a gamer, or I've been, you know, when I was younger, and I played a lot of games, you know, Fallout, Assassin's Creed, Witcher, and there's really cool aspects in the game, like open world and stuff like that. So it really seems very nice. Even I didn't play it yet, I don't have that much time, but both of us had really great impressions from the game. But if we can talk about historical accuracy about the game, can you a little bit tell, like, it's like, is it close or isn't?
So of course this is not a living history channel, it's a computer game entertainment, but it's quite well done. Concerning accuracy of First Mongolian Invasion 1274 year, it was through attack of Tsushima. About 30,000 invaders attacked this about 80 kilometers long island between Japan and Korea. By the way, samurai in Tsushima were not good guys at all because they were often pirates attacking Korean in the end of Koryo period before Mongolian invasion to Korea, and it was first epical fight between big Mongolian army and 80 samurais.
Only 80 was actually
Yes.
on the...
So Japanese some are incredible people and no fair fighting until the death. And of course, invasion was successful, and Mongolian hordes captured some women and roped it in his boats, like psychological warfare. But this point of view of story about accuracy of dress, etc. Maker of Ghost of Tsushima wanted to make something like samurai spirit game, not historical accuracy game. So, for example, you should see katana sword in game, but in late Kamakura period, in end of 13th century, they were not katana yet in Japan. It has been invented about from middle Muromachi period from 15th century. So if you should see dress of characters of game, it's from Muromachi to Edo period, from 15th to 19th century. But I suppose it's very good game. About choreography of fighting, it's very high level. I suppose some true Kenjutsu master or Yai master did it, and it's enjoyable to see it. It's very beautiful music, I suppose. So I'm not gamer, but it's like movie and.
And do you think if the samurai warrior would have katana at the time, do you think it would have given him some advantages compared to Tachi? Or you think it would be basically the same result?
So katana is better for infantry, Tachi is better for cavalry. So if you have katana, you should do nuki-uchi or cut after drawing out the sword. With Tachi, it's not so easy. Comparing with Tachi, katana as average should be a little bit shorter, should be about 69 centimeters, like Teisun, the most usual length of katana. Of course, there are much more long katana as well. So, for example, short sword or tanto has been used in time of Mongolian invasion. We have here nice Osuraku Sukuri style Gendaito, newly made tanto. Adam used it for throwing.
In the new episode, we're gonna be talking about that one a little bit later. He's really beautiful.
How he was successful. But for example, short sword or wakizashi were not in Kamakura period yet. It was invented senmai katana in 15th century from Uchigatana. So. But it was very nice inspiration for us for our Lords of the Blades episode. We tried some weapons from this computer game in real life. We tried fight against spear. We tried cut arrows. Katana, flying arrows, of course. I have some small accident in my
You're
head.
gonna see what happened, guys. You have to see the next episode next week.
Because we, of course, used sharp arrows and without protection. We are mad.
Crazy.
Don't try it, please.
Basically, you're gonna see all weapons from the main character Jin, right? Next week. Gonna be Ghost of Tsushima weapons in real life next week. So what other weapons actually the character had? So we talk about the tanto, wakizashi, katana. What else?
we have here Kaginawa or hooked rope. Of course, kunai. It's some question: is it possible to fight with kunai against enemy using armor? So Adam has a very interesting test about it.
Yeah. Next week, guys.
We spoke about Onna Bugeisha or fighting woman. It's some character Masako in computer games. So we have our friend from our dojo, Marusawa, Japanese girl, very talented. Have some video fighting girl, etc. So it was very enjoyable for us, and suppose that should be our most epic video.
It's gonna be really great, guys.
Of the blades.
And Master Jakub, what about this mask that we have on the table? I think it's like really connected with the game.
It's in Ghost of Tsushima as well. It's Mempo. It's part of samurai armor. Jin Sakai, main character of this game, use it. In the fact, there were some face masks in the end of Kamakura period, but not like this. This is kind made from the Muromachi period from 15th century. But it's very cool, I suppose. So Adam, for example, tried first time from medieval age Japan period armor kunai throwing using this mask as well. It was very interesting.
I had full armor and throwing this kunai was so difficult, guys. You definitely have to see the episode next week.
Didn't heard that somebody practiced it in 20th century.
And also the character had bows, right?
Yes.
We talk, there's in the game short bow. Can you a little bit explain? Because you told me the samurais had also some short bow.
Yes. Average size bow is called Yumi. It's made from Madake bamboo and hazelwood, and it's much more shorter, called Hankyu or Rimankyu. It's about 1 meter or smaller in size. For example, it has been used by samurai in Palakin, and of course Mongolian bow is very incredible, very high level, same like Japanese bow. It's a reflex bow. It's about 80 pounds strong, and I suppose that the Mongolian bow should be a little bit better than Japanese one, because Japanese one is so big.
Yes, but very impractical in combat, maybe.
Yes. But I suppose that Japanese samurais were very good in individual combat, but Mongolian warriors were better in strategy. Fighting in mass informations, it was not typical for Kamakura period Japan. They were using dokuya or poisoned arrows.
Mongolians?
Yes. Bombs with gunpowder.
Oh, so it was actually a reality? The
Yes.
Because somebody was asking in the chat. So.
Yes.
Oh,
it's
wow.
True, it's true.
Okay.
It's first time using of gunpowder outside of China, for example.
Wow, incredible.
They were using very good technological weapons, not in Tsushima, but in different fightings, like fighting rackets, crossbows, etc.
Oh, it must have been incredible.
After invading of Sung period China, Mongolian warriors very fastly understood advantages of new technologies of fighting, like bombs, etc. And they were, of course, fighting nomads, but they were very skillful in using of this very advanced new technology weapons.
And they were throwing the bombs or shooting, or how was the using?
They were using catapults and throwing bombs by hand as well.
I think there are also catapults in the game. I have seen some pictures and stuff like that.
Yes. Of course, they were not only Mongolian fighters in the time of attack of Japan. They were also Korean warriors, Georgians, Chinese, etc. And for example, they were using uh, spear. It was not typical for Japan of Kamakura period. Samurai has been used only Naginata is life. So of course after Mongolian invasion, it was some big changes in Japanese fighting strategy. Before the Mongolian invasion, it was only lot of personal duels in battlefield, and after that, of course, infantry pairs should be first time opponent for mounted horsemen, and I suppose the peak of using of infantry and newly infantry samurai called Ashigaru is from 15th century, from Onin War in start of Sengoku period, but influence come from end of Kamakura period, indeed.
Very interesting facts. I think that invasion was big eye opener, right, for the Japanese. So, Master Jakub, what about the armor? Is it like, did you have seen also some pictures of armor videos? Do you think it's like accurate, or they put like a mixture together, or?
Yes, it's a lot of kind of armor in the game, and in end of Kamakura period, samurai used a very big armor called Oyoroi. It's not so big occurrence in the game because we should see here some later kind of armor like Domaru, Haramaki, Tatakido, etc. But this game is not.
Yes.
It's not. Living history channel, and I suppose it's very nicely produced in this game, and it's very enjoyable to see it.
Well, you heard it, guys. And what about you talked about before? Actually, the techniques and stances. Is it like a close, similar what you doing and other practitioners?
I suppose that in this game is very well visible different between samurais and between Mongolian hordes. Mongolian were fighting for victory, and samurais for honor, and of course for protecting of his country. So it's in this game as well, I suppose.
There's like several stances also in the game. Did you have seen like is it like a reality like to using this stance?
Yes.
Okay, I have also seen there was like it's basically mini game, and you can go to the forest and to getting better to your skills, you are cutting the bamboo. It would be actually something that samurai would do, like go to the forest and just chopping all day bamboo.
When I were in Japan, when I visited my great friend and Dai senpai, Matsuba sensei, Mukansa level of swordsmith, highest level of swordsmith, and master or Menkyo Kaiden of Japanese fencing style Jikishin Gagaryu. So we practiced bamboo cutting as well. It's kind of tameshigiri, it's very enjoyable, but not so easy. I like tameshigiri cutting of straw mats as well. We have some tameshigiri in our video as well, because I have some nice hole from arrow in my head from yesterday's filming. I was cutting only with one hand.
But still very well. All right. So, and you would think that you could actually damage the katana if you would be cutting the bamboo, or is it?
It's very easy to damage katana in case of wrong technique or wrong hasuji or angle of cutting. But if you are practicing hard, it's not so difficult. I suppose it's the same difficult like cutting of straw mats. Of course, there are a lot of kinds of straw mats. Original Japanese one is most difficult, and there are some much more softer Chinese made, and it's good for beginners.
Somebody's asking, there are 3 one-handed stands in the game. Was there a lot of one-handed techniques?
It was very a lot of techniques in a lot of schools. Mostly Japan was divided into a lot of independent kuni or countries. It should be almost 300, and in all of the kuni or province, it was a lot of schools of martial art. Of course, kenjutsu or fencing, jujutsu, unarmed fight, sojutsu, after later spear fencing, etc. So of course it was a lot of technique as well. For example, in very old style of fencing, Katori Shinto is a lot of hundreds of technique of fencing. I'm practicing Apo. It's not so much technique, but it's very difficult as well. Most difficult is Kihon or basic techniques, and after that is combination of this basic technique is easy. But I suppose it's like playing of golf. It's very technical, so need a lot of concentration and practice hard. But it's also very enjoyable.
Maybe one day we can actually set up live stream somewhere where we do good internet, and Master Jakub can actually show you some cutting. So that could be a lot of fun. So, Master Jakub, if you would be actually the game developer, what are you like missing in the game? What you would like to add, or what you're missing?
Of course, I'm not expert for games. I should tell that I'm very satisfied with graphical parts of game. It's incredible. I like fighting with swords, etc. It's very high level, I suppose. So maybe some weapons like naginata or glaives is not in this game because swords were not so important like pole arms in this period. And I suppose that there are some small factical mistakes, but I shouldn't see mistakes. I suppose that Mongolian should be much more well organized. For example, if I would like attack Mongolian camp, it should be much more better.
Yes. Then maybe alone just.
Yes. Much. So, if I think about historical accuracy, there should be some mistake. But if I think about this game, like about entertainment, I suppose it's 100% perfect.
Yeah. So if you could summarize the game, you would definitely recommend it to play even for the martial arts people. Yeah.
Yes, of course. For example, Jin should make haiku poetry in this game, but haiku poetry is from end of 17th century, from Genroku period, so it's not so historical accuracy, but should be interesting for someone who like inspiration to study Japanese culture or poetry. So I suppose that it's quite good for influence about high quality Japanese culture.
Very interesting. Yes, it can make a lot of people interested in this topic. So I personally think it's also very, very cool. So guys, now we're gonna be talking and taking people's questions. So whatever you want to ask about this game, or if you have something else, we can definitely explain everything with Master Jakub, or at least we're gonna try. So whatever you want to ask, guys, we can let you know. So what Master Jakub thinking about the Ronin clothes stealthiness in the game?
Yes.
What is that?
In the fact, there are a lot of kinds of clothes in this game, and it's not typical clothes of end of Kamakura period. It's mostly Edo period. It's from 17th to 19th century, but it's very cool. So it's not so high historical accuracy, but you are in old Japanese Chambara movie or some historical movie. So atmosphere of this game is very nice, but I suppose it is not necessary to think so much about accuracy
Yeah,
in
yeah.
these details because it's only game.
It's like watching the Hollywood movie. You just
Yes.
yeah, like Last Samurai would maybe talk about it,
Yeah,
right?
it was a lot of nonsense, historical nonsense in the Last Samurai. So I suppose that this game is maybe much more with historical accuracy than the Last
Yeah,
Samurai.
if you could compare the Last Samurai and the
Yes,
game,
yes,
is
yes.
much better. The game. Well, you heard it, guys. So definitely cool.
But it's strong story about loyalty, about honor, about protecting own country. So I like this game.
Very cool. We have now interesting question from Patrick Holiday. Patrick is asking, how were samurai chosen? Were they born into it?
Yes, of course. If you were samurai, it was something like to be knight. You has been born as samurai. Only in very rare cases you should become a samurai, for example, from lower rank. For example, famous Toyotomi Hideyoshi was son of Ashigaru or low-level infantryman and became in end of 16th century ruler of all of Japan, but it was not typical. It was samurais, something like fighting aristocracy or knights. Nomin, it was farmers, jonin, commoners. So it was this dividing of society of medieval age Japan.
Very interesting. Thank you, Master
And
Jakub.
the last one was businessman or jonin.
Okay. Another question is from Flaming Skull. Hey Adam, can you ask if honor in the battle was big deal, how they portrayed it in the game, or did they do whatever they could win? So if it's really real, like the samurai was really like for the honor, at least in the first invasion, or it wasn't like true with the honor of the samurai in the first invasion?
I suppose that Kenjutsu is very old martial art in old Japan. Oldest school of Kenjutsu and is Katori Shintoryu from 14th century, but some fighting methods were much more previously. I suppose when first fighter appear, first technique how to use sword has been studied. Of course, Yaijutsu or Batojutsu or art of drawing sword is after katana sword appear. So it's from Muromachi period from 15th century approximately, from Udo Jingu in south of Japan.
The game is like a 12th century or something like that? The game?
The game is end of 13th century.
Okay. Henry Rapp is asking, Master Jakub, who did you study, Kenjutsu or Laido? What are your styles? Do you have favorite technique?
In Hapori or our
Thank you, Henry.
style is both. It's Batojutsu or Yaijutsu or art of drawing sword. It's strongly influenced by Morinaga Hatoyamaryu and Kenjutsu. It's Japanese fencing. We are also using some pole arms like Yari, Naginata, Shuriken, etc.
Babe6 is asking, what's the difference between Kenjutsu and Ninjutsu?
So Kenjutsu means fighting with sword. Ninjutsu is art of espionage, collecting of information, making disinformation, etc. Usually ninja were a person of low Nibun or rank and often visited enemy's territory and did this work. In historical Japan, ninja were not assassin at first. It was like spies in contemporary world, but of course, for art of escaping, used some hidden weapons like shuriken, etc.
Kuro is asking, what kind of sake is fits for samurai?
Ozeki kana. It's a lot of kinds of sake. Sake is called also Nihonshu in Japan. It's a rice wine, and delicious one is very very tasty. You should drink it cold or hot, what you prefer. And it's difficult to tell which kind is good and which is not good. I'm often drinking Ozeki, for example.
Do we know even since which period the sake they had?
It's from a Han period, from a very old times, and I like sake because it's very very delicious.
Maybe next time.
Very strongly connected with Japanese culture. For example, Japanese marriage is produced by changing of cup of sake. It's called sansankudo. It's holy sake in the jinja or Shinto shrines, in some ceremonies, etc., etc.
Interesting. Has Master Jakub ever spared against any HEMA practitioner?
Yes, quite successfully.
Yeah.
We are practicing. We are practicing free fighting with Japanese sword. It's called gekiken, and time to time HEMA warriors is coming to our tournament. I suppose that HEMA is a lot about speed because it is some protection. But gekiken is without protection, so everybody wants not to be hit because it hurt. So it's more blocks, movement than in HEMA. Of course, they are perfect HEMA fencer and not good Japanese fencing fencer. So it depends on people which is practicing Western or Japanese fencing. It's not so easy to tell. Japanese fencing is better than European.
Yes, always depend person to person, right?
Yes.
So Shizuhiro Takahashi is asking, was the Nadashi really used as a primary weapon? I'm sure it's more of a ceremonial thing, right?
Takahashi-san, じゃあちょっと教えましょうか。Yes, for example, Nadashi was fighting weapon in the Nambukucho period in 14th century, but in Kamakura period, Sanchukoto or 90 centimeters long sword was quite typical. For example, in the time of Mongolian invasion. Of course, there are some honoto or ceremonial swords, but Nadashi was also used to fight, and Sanzoku or mountain bandits used it often for job, for burying.
Somebody's also asked about your katana. What do you have today? Do you have some kind of special?
Here is by lovely sword called Sudeno Yuki. Sudeno Yuki means snow in the slave. It's with Nihon Bijudokai and Zonkyokai papers. It's Shimosaka school. It's second part of 16th century.
Wow.
Name of this sword is in the nakago or tongue of this blade in gold inlay, and it means that this sword should cut head as easily as snow should fall from a slave.
That's beautiful.
It's about 69 centimeters long. It's the teaspoon or average length of katana in old Japan, but I am a little bit bigger than average Japanese samurais. Average weight of samurai in 16th century was about 160 centimeters. I'm 189 centimeters.
Very big samurai.
For me, it's better to use for practicing much more longer sword. But I like this sword very much. It's with very nice fitting as well. And maybe we should show it to camera. Tsuba
Show you guys details.
Tsuba or sword guard is Hikonebori Sultan school with motif of demon of Oyama mountain, Menuki, or handle ornament is with motif of Hania or demon mask from No Chapter. And
hope you can see that, guys.
Kashira
Really beautiful.
or hilt is with dragon, and Fuji is with motif of Karashishi or lion dog.
Beautiful katana. And Master Jakub, since we have here also the kunais, can you a little bit explain, was the kunai like the real throwing knife, or was the kunai like actually more like a tool, or?
Yes, very good question. Of course, kunai was a tool for digging or hole making by people which is contemporary called ninja in old text, Rapaga, Shinobi no Monokusa, etc. But was also used for throwing like shuriken and for yoroi kumeuchi or wrestling with armor for attacking of some weak points of armor.
So you would basically maybe not throw it, but use it as a handheld combat?
Yes. Very useful weapon. It's now very famous for some anime called Naruto, but it's true old Japanese kind of shuriken.
Yeah, Henry is reminding that samurai also threw the kozuke, utility knife, in the katana scabbard. Yeah, I think we even showed it, right?
Yes, we made some video about kozuka throwing. I suppose it's about 20 so-called ninja weapons. So you should see it in our Lords of the Blade episode.
And was samurai actually using the classic ninja star, or it wasn't?
It's a very good question as well. Yes, for example, Yagyu Shinkageryu style of Kenjutsu used shuriken and used shuriken like this. This is so-called karakuri shuriken. This one is not old one. It's Russian Spetsnaz. 20th
Video is coming, guys. Another video.
I suppose Adam should prepare a very nice video about it. So the shuriken was as well star-shaped shuriken was part of Kenjutsu schools or schools of Japanese sword fittings. Same like bow shuriken or needles or knives like throwing blades.
Well, since we opened this one, Master Jakub, can you a little bit explain what it is?
Yes, this one is original Spetsnaz Russian throwing style, and I'm from Czech Republic, and in 80s Czech army made a copy of this throwing style. It's a little bit bigger than original one. But it's very difficult to find it, so I suppose that Adam should make very nice video about it.
I made actually, guys, the video about the older one. This is the older one, but the Czech version, so you can definitely see it in our list. So this will be very interesting.
I suppose that it's very dangerous weapon because it's quite heavy. It's with very sharp points.
Yes.
So usually some Kenjutsu schools shuriken is not so heavy and not so big. It's only for making a small injury, and after that fencer was continuing with sword attack. But this one should kill someone very easily, I suppose.
Kuan was saying like that kunai looks like a nail, not like Naruto cartoon movie I saw. So maybe we can explain, like, there was a lot of types of kunais, right? There was not
Yes,
just Naruto.
this one shuriken is called kunai gata. It means it's in the shape of kunai. Kunai should be very big, should be with this size as well. But this one is much more smaller. It was a lot of schools of shuriken jutsu and a lot of kinds of kunais like this. And I suppose that shuriken was most secret weapon of kenjutsu schools. So it's not so much information about it. Shuriken jutsu is very interesting, almost forgotten art. There are some famous schools like Katori Shintoryu or Negishiryu.
Is there still a lot of school in Japan, or it's like more disappearing this art? Or
But I suppose it's only half of people which is practicing shuriken properly in contemporary world. It's thousands and thousands of schools of Iaido or Kendo. It's thousands and thousands of schools of Jujutsu, but about maybe 5, 6 schools of shuriken
wow, very little.
in contemporary world.
And Master Jakub, in Tanto in the game, it's actually used for the stealth mission. It would be actually something that samurai would also pick, or he would rather use some different knife, or maybe katana, or...
Of course, in all of the world, Tanto is very practical for silent killing of somebody. Samurais used Tanto also for Yoroi Kumeuchi or grappling with armor. Later from Romachi period, Yoroi Doshi or armor stabbing that also become popular, and it was good for attacking of weaker points of armor, for example, inner part of kote or waki.
Like under armor?
Yes, under armor, yes, etc. Mostly for stabbing, because it is not so easy to cut somebody with sword if this people is wearing armor, and if it's impossible with sword, it's almost impossible with Tanto as well.
Peter have interesting question. Were there any Viking swords that were as sharp as samurai swords, or harder to break? Do you think Vikings could have possibly sharper swords?
Viking sword is very perfect weapon. Best Viking swords was made in Frank Empire, and it was import. And it's very well made with Damascus blade. So I suppose that we should compare quality of Japanese sword and Viking sword. I suppose that in the period of Vikings, this kind of sword was so expensive, so only kings or very rich warriors should use it. But it's a very good question. I suppose that Japanese sword and Viking sword are the best from world swords.
Maybe you can also add that also the Japanese swords were very expensive as well, that nobody could like afford, only few people.
Yes, but I suppose that in Europe it was evolution of swords. For example, 10th century sword is completely different from 15th century sword, and it is complete different from 19th century sword. But Japanese sword is same like in 10th century. It's with carved blade, with temple line or hamon, and of course in any period shape or length of blade should be different, but mostly it's very similar without evolution. I suppose that this lack of evolution is one of interesting parts of Japanese culture.
Devin, that's actually a good question. How much should someone pay for a good sword?
Question is for which reason you need sword. If you need sword for practicing, you should use good sword like Hanwei, etc. Evolution Blade is perfect one, for example, for Tameshigiri. And it's not so expensive. It's better don't buy eBay level very cheap swords because it's wrong in all of the points. But if you need good Japanese sword for practicing of martial art and its original Japanese sword, I suppose you should buy it from about $4,000 or $5,000. And sword of very high artistic value should be incredibly very high price.
Yeah, you can see, guys, even $700,000 sword like in our episode.
So, for example, sword made by Mukansa, highest level of contemporary swordsmith, should be from in price from 1 million yen. It should be about $800,000.
$8,000.
$8,000. $8,000.
What do you think? Who would win? A knight with a katana or a samurai with a long sword?
Good now. We should try it in one episode. We are preparing small episodes about fighting between Japanese sword and rapier. It should be very, very lovely. But I suppose that it's not problem of weapon. It's problem of proper training, etc.
Osman saber, is that good? I think that's maybe like a Mongolian.
Yes. For example, Shamshir or Kilich should be very deadly weapon. Best of them is made from wood Damascus and cut very well, and is with very high artistic value as well.
Oh, maybe we can actually make episode about Mongolians weapons as well.
Should be maybe
someday
in the future.
That would be also very interesting. So what questions else you have, guys? We have still about 15 minutes left, and after we are go for the dinner. So whatever you want to know about the game Ghost of Tsushima, Master Jakub, whatever you want to ask, guys. So what today martial art? Is it similar to the martial art that was in the past, or a lot of things change?
I suppose that it should depend on schools. For example, in contemporary world, it's not so hard practicing like in past because, for example, in medieval age Japan, if you lost a duel, you lost life. But now, if you are losing tournament, it's a pity, but not so big problem. So samurai were very concentrated to practicing martial art because it was question of life or death. So of course there are some very strong mind budoka which is practicing very hard in contemporary world, but in contemporary world it's not necessary in the fact to practice so hard because we are fighting with guns or bombs. And they are not so strong point of view. If you will fail, you will die.
Yes.
So
wow.
in our dojo we are practicing with this question in mind. If you close the eyes, it's distinction between life and death. It's very fast. When I made a very small mistake in yesterday's practicing of movie making, I had some injury. But it's possible to die if you make some mistake in old battle. So it's a good experience and good way how to understand true martial art because it's not game.
All right, guys. So Hagakura, what it is?
Yes.
Master, do you know Hagakura?
What it is? A very good book about Bushido from the middle Edo period. when I were in Japan, I visited Saga prefecture. It was Hizen. Uh, by the way, Hizen Tadayoshi sword smithing school is very famous, and Hizen toys very good swords, even in Edo period, and it's very important book for study of Bushido. But I suppose that it's text made in peace period because in Edo period from 1603 year to 1867 year it was not wars. So when samurai lost reason for life because there were no battles, so wanted to find peace with rest of society and find a reason why to exist. So one part was Pumburyoto, or culture and martial art together. So, for example, samurai were a master of no theater, tea ceremony, calligraphy, etc.
Many skills.
And in Hagakure, it's finding sense of life in death. So samurai have to be prepared for that in this text, like for sense of life. But in periods of wars, like Sengoku period, I suppose that true samurais wanted to survive, like
fight their best
motivation.
Yes.
So I suppose that text from fighting period should be a little bit different. From Hagakure, it's a lot of ethos of that in the Hagakure, but I like personally, for example, Heike Monogatari, it's Gunkimono or War Chronic from start of 13th century, and it's treasure of world literature. And we should understand complex of samurai thinking better than in Hagakure.
This may be like a add on this. Babe6 is asking, did samurai had classes like light armored samurai, high armored samurai, or it was like just samurai?
Yes, it was big differences between samurai class. Saikaki Bushi was lowest level of samurai. It was, for example, Ashigaru, and after that they were middle rank samurai, higher rank samurai. Samurai has been used some titles like Hatamoto, for example, personal vassal of shogun. Samurai were part of warrior class, and for example, duke or daimyo were also samurai in some point of view. So, of course, there were a lot of differences between low and high ranking samurai.
Very interesting. We had also questions about the shuriken throwing. Somebody was asking about the distances. Do you think it was more like a short distance, long distance? Because in the game you can see long distances, so maybe...
So I am practicing shuriken for about 10 years. It's very funny level if I compare it with Adam's incredible skill. I suppose that it's possible to throw shuriken in a no spin method about 6 meters, and after that you should use hand and haw or half spin to about 9 or 10 meters, and it's useless for bigger distance because shuriken is not so powerful, and my enemy should react to flying shuriken and make some movement to survive.
So maybe even the shaken would not be used also for the long
Yes.
distances, right?
Of course, in movies you should see a lot of nonsense, but I suppose that perfect distance for shuriken is about 2, 3, 4 meters.
I can only agree.
But I suppose that Adam should explain it much more with thousands of hours of practicing. And
Yeah,
also
you
experience.
said it. You said it well. I would use the same distances, and the other ones would make no sense because the enemy could dodge, right? So we had also. Oh, that's a good, Yulan. Master, can you recommend some book written by actual samurai? Is there some book written by a samurai?
For example, Nitobe, a book about Bushido. It's a very high level of understanding of samurai culture.
Monk is asking, here is a question. Why do you think samurai swords were created the way they are? Like the curved blade, fancy handle construction, compared to modern blades?
I suppose it's a very good question. In fact, there were a lack of good iron in old Japan, so make high-level blades take a lot of time, a lot of folding, etc. And of course, after that, Japanese sword was product of this effort, and in the Japanese culture, sword is soul of samurai, katana wa bushido tamashi in one Japanese proverb. So, sword is necessary for true fight, as one Japanese proverb say, "Warazu magarazu yoku kireru." It means that sword shouldn't break, shouldn't bend, and have to cut well. But it was not only weapon; it was also object of religion, etc. And it's also object of art in contemporary Japan. Sword is Bijuzudoken or artistic sword. So you should see here temper line or hamon, etc. And see some interesting part from point of view. So that sword should very well cut is only one of point of view about this problematic.
And Master Jakub, do you have like some your favorite movie about the samurais that you think it's like really good?
Yes,
Or
for example, Seven Samurais,
yeah?
or for example, Gohato, or for example, Goyokin.
It's more like an older movies.
Yes, yes. I suppose that, or seppuku, or harakiri, of course. I suppose that all the Japanese movies often better than a new one because new samurai movies is often only entertainment, like Ronin Kenshin, but without any understanding of samurai culture or philosophy, etc.
Tevin is asking, are there any good books about that can teach him proper cutting techniques, or it's better maybe go to visit some school or?
Or if you like Tameshigiri, I suppose that Toyama Ryu is the best choice. Maybe the best way is to visit some Toyama Ryu schools.
But you can think maybe he can teach just from the book. You think it's possible? Or?
And Nakamura Sensei book is very good about understanding of basics of Tameshigiri, but I suppose that visiting of school is a better way, or contact some Japanese sensei.
You can visit Master Jakub in Prague also.
I should be very happy.
Yes.
I like Tameshigiri and my students.
Hakuzan Dojo in Prague, guys. You can visit wherever you want. So we're gonna take, guys, maybe last three questions, and we're gonna finish it because after we go to the dinner, Master need to save his energy for the other things. So guys, like I said, we're gonna take last three questions and we're gonna finish it. So whatever you want to know, you can ask us. So I will pick the right questions for the Master Jakub. Yulan, I'm playing the Kingdom Come Deliverance. Actually, Master Jakub was also making some clips, right, about Kingdom Come.
Maker of Kingdom Come, I suppose it's very good computer game from our Czech history. Asked me to take part in some tests because I'm often practicing Tameshigiri or cutting tests, so I tried to use some European medieval weapons for this test. It was very good experience for me and very enjoyable because it's a lot of friends from Kingdom Come team. For example, all friends from Wolflund or Arma Epona.
So like I said, guys, last few questions and we're gonna finish it. And thank you so much that so many people joined today's stream. It was really awesome. And if you haven't seen our series Lords of the Blades, you definitely have to check it out, guys.
And please watch our new episode of Lords of the Blades.
Next week.
It should be very interesting.
Maybe you can tell what we filmed today, like what we did, basically.
We made some tameshigiri or cutting, Adam some kunai throwing, tanto throwing, some fencing with sword against spear, like in Ghost of Tsushima, etc. So we practiced very hard. I was cutting only with one hand because the second one is a nice hole from arrow. Please don't try it.
Yes.
I tried to do a tameshigiri with umbrella because it should be it seems that it should be running in Prague. So drawing and cutting only with one hand. So it was a lot of fun about it and very enjoyable and a lot of new experience.
And we were lucky with the weather because now it's raining and in the morning we had really great weather. So guys, last question we're gonna take from Nice, and he is asking, can you make living out of being samurai nowadays? So maybe that's like a, I don't know.
So I try to live like samurai. I try to live practicing martial art. I'm reading haiku poetry. I'm studying old Japanese culture. I like Japanese tea. So I suppose that it's possible to practice like in old Japan, if you would like, and it's my way of life. So if you like it, you should do it as well.
And maybe totally last one, Master Jakub by the monk, because he's asking, it's pretty cool. Can hardworking man in the village, can he make like a katana, or do you need like some certain skills, certain knowledge that was like a past to generation, or you can just make katana?
I suppose that it's very difficult. It needs a lot of study, but if you are a very strong mind, you should do everything.
Yeah, because we can tell like some of our friends like Pavel Bov and some other Czech.
It is a very long, very difficult and very enjoyable way. If you love it, if it's your destiny, you should do it.
Yeah, definitely don't expect you're gonna become a sword maker, katana maker overnight. It's definitely gonna take some skills. So guys, wow, what a stream, 1 hour in. We definitely can recommend the Ghost of Tsushima game. Definitely check out next week the new episode, Lords of the Blades, Ghost of Tsushima weapons. It's gonna be really cool. And big thanks to Master Jakub for this amazing stream. And this stream will be also live on my channel, so if you still will have some questions, you can let us know, and I will let know to Master Jakub and we can answer it later. But guys, for today, that's it. So thank you all for watching. Share, like, comment, subscribe, and
またよろしくお願いいたします。
see you next time, guys.